So once again, good morning to all. So today, in the continuation of the earlier topic, we will discuss about carbohydrates, monosaccharides, okay, their structure. Then next, today we will discuss about next group of carbohydrates, that is disaccharides. As the name suggests, I told you that disaccharides basically includes two unit of monosaccharides. Okay, I told you that disaccharides involves two unit of monosaccharides. Now, for example, if we catalyze the disaccharide, if we hydrolyze the disaccharides with the water, we will get two different units of monosaccharides. That is maltose. In the maltose, if we catalyze the maltose, we will get two units like glucose and glucose. If we will oxidize lactose, we will get one unit of glucose, one unit of galactose. If we will catalyze sucrose, we will get one unit of glucose and one unit of fructose. It means to say that suppose glucose and glucose, these two monosaccharides will form maltose. Glucose and galactose, they will form lactose. Glucose plus fructose, they will form sucrose. How these two disaccharides are basically dissolved in the monosaccharides. Okay. Then I told you basically the carbohydrates contains carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Okay. So there's the position of hydroxyl is on different carbons, which we discussed like anomer carbon, epimeric carbon, penultimate carbon, terminal carbon. But all these elements and the units of these monosaccharides, disaccharides, polysaccharides, they are held together by glycosidic bonds. Okay, they are held together by another type of bonds called as glycosidic bonds. Okay, so we will discuss. See, suppose we take the example of maltose. Okay, when we split maltose, I told you we will get two subunits of glucose. Okay, because maltose is made up of two subunits of glucose. Now here, see these there are two glucose. When we go for the naming of the function groups, see here the hydroxyl ion is present at the first position, and in second molecule hydroxyl ion is present in the fourth position. Okay, one hydroxyl ion is present in the first position and one hydroxyl ion is present in the fourth position. So we call as alpha position because it is the terminal position. That's why their name is alpha D glucose, alpha D glucose. So maltose is made up of two units of alpha D glucose. And so what will happen? These maltose will be joined by the OH of first group and of one molecule and the OH of another molecule of fourth group. So as a result, there is a formation of bond. So this bond is formed between first position and fourth position. Okay, this bond is formed at first position and the fourth position. So we call as alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond. A disaccharide in which two alpha D glucose molecules they are joined by alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond. Okay. Then see this position. Here the bond formation is there. Alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond is there. This terminal position is called as anomer. Okay. So this maltose is basically, we can say that it is obtained from starch. Okay, it is obtained from starch. The maltose is also used in cereals, candies, and brewing. Okay, it is also used in cereals, candies, and brewing. So we can say that these two units of maltose, they are made up of two molecules of alpha D glucose, which are having the bonding at position of alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond. Okay, they are joined by alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond. So this is the position of maltose. Then we discuss about sucrose. Same story applies here. Sucrose is made up of D-glucose and D-fructose. Means one is having aldehyde group, one is having ketone group. Okay. So sucrose is a disaccharide which is called as also table sugar. Okay, sucrose is also called as table sugar. And it is, we can say that it is one of the most important carbohydrate in the world. Okay, so sugar is one of the most important carbohydrate found in the world. As this diagram suggests, it is made up of glucose and fructose molecules. Okay, now see this diagram. This is to one molecule of glucose, one molecule of fructose. Now, the position of OH, one at alpha position and another at beta position. So here, again the bond will be which one? Alpha beta 1,2 glycosidic bond. Okay, so in sucrose, which bond is formed? The bond is called as alpha beta 1,2 glycosidic bond. Is that clear? So the sucrose molecule, it is called as alpha beta 1,2 glycosidic bond. And the maltose, which was the bond? Alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond. So in that only alpha was there, glycosidic bond was there. Here also both alpha and beta is there because there is a difference in the position of OH group. Because one is aldehyde, one is ketone. The sucrose is made up of glucose, D-glucose and D-fructose, and they are having the bonding at the position of alpha beta 1,2 glycosidic bond. Okay, so this is the position, right? So I hope the structure is very simple. Maltose made up of 2 units of what? Glucose. Sucrose is made up of 1 unit of glucose and 1 unit of fructose. Both is having alpha glycosidic bond, but the position of bonding is alpha 1,4 in the maltose and alpha and beta 1,2 in the sucrose. Okay, then next point we reach to about polysaccharides. So polysaccharides, they are the largest group of carbohydrates which are having units of how much? More than 6. Because disaccharides 2, oligosaccharides 2 to 6, and polysaccharides more than 6 repeating units. So polysaccharides are the larger molecules of monosaccharides that are connected to each other. There are 2 types of polysaccharides. First is storage polysaccharides, second is structural polysaccharide. Okay, first is storage polysaccharides and second is structural polysaccharides. So storage polysaccharides contain only alpha glucose units. Okay, storage polysaccharides, they are made up of only alpha glucose units. Okay. So the example of the storage polysaccharides are starch, glycogen and amylopectin. The example of storage polysaccharides are starch, glycogen and amylopectin. While the structural polysaccharides contains only beta glucose units. The alpha and beta I told you this name is based upon the position of the hydroxyl groups. So the structural polysaccharides contain only beta glucose units. Okay. 2 important examples are cellulose and chitin. Okay, 2 examples are cellulose and chitin. Chitin contains modified beta glucose unit. Okay, chitin contains beta glucose units. 2 important units components are what? Cellulose and chitin. So chitins are modified beta glucose unit. So we can define the polysaccharides based on 2 types, storage and structural. And in the storage, it has alpha glucose units. In the structural, it has beta glucose units. Examples of storage: starch, glycogen, and amylopectin. Example of structural polysaccharides: cellulose and chitin. And chitin are modified beta glucose units. Okay. So storage and structural polysaccharides, they are made up of glucose units. Okay. But since what I told, since the units are different, one is having alpha, another is having beta. So they are structurally and functionally different because of their glycosidic bonds and difference in the branching. So what will happen? Both storage, like what I told, storage and structural polysaccharides, as they are having alpha and beta glucose units respectively, so they will possess different structural and functional properties because their bonds are different. One is having alpha bond, one is having beta bond, and their branching is also different. The position of groups is also different. So ultimately, their behavior will be also different. Okay, so they are called as storage and structural polysaccharides. Right? So their example we will discuss later on in the coming lecture. So first we will discuss about storage polysaccharides. So I told you the example. Examples are amylose, amylopectin. They both are the part of starch. Amylose, amylopectin. They both are part of starch. So starch is a mixture of amylose and amylopectin, which are normally found in plant foods. Because plant foods contain some amount of fibers. Some amount of fibers are there. So starch is a mixture of amylose and amylopectin and is mainly found in plant foods. Okay, they are mainly found in plant foods. So in that, amylose makes up to 20% of the plant starch. Okay, amylose is smaller and amylopectin is little bit big part. So amylose makes only about 20% of the plant starch, and it is made up of 250 to 4000 D-glucose molecules. See, in what I told in polysaccharides, there are large number of repeating units of monosaccharides. Very it can be up to 1000. So what is amylose? Amylose makes 20% of the plant starch, and they are made up of 250 to 4000 D-glucose units. Though the bonding is same, that is alpha 1,1,4 glycosidic bond. The bonding is same as in maltose. Bonding is same. There is no change in bonding, but the number of units are large. That is about 250 to 4000 D-glucose units. If the chains will increase in size, if there are long chains, they will form coiled-like structure. Okay, if they will form long chains, they will form coiled-like structure. Then we come to amylopectin. So remaining part, that is about 80% part of the plant starch. They are also made up of D-glucose. Also the bonding is same. See, amylose and amylopectin, two differences are there only. Bonding is same, D-glucose is same. Only the difference is of volume. One makes 20% part, that is amylose. Amylopectin makes 80% part. Second difference, they are made up of around 250 to 4000 D-glucose units, while amylopectin is made up of more than 4000 units. So discuss about first storage polysaccharides, that is amylose and amylopectin. Both they together form starch. Both they together form what? They together form both starch. Then further, see about every 25 glucose units of amylopectin means glucose molecules are repeated at every 25 units. Okay, glucose units are repeated at every 25 units. So about every 25 glucose units, they are having, means normally the bonding is alpha 1,4, but after 25 residue, the bonding is changed. Again alpha 1,6 bond, then again 25, again 24, alpha 1,4, then again 25th, alpha 1,6, means glucose alpha 1,6 bond is repeated after every 25 residues. Like first it is having at second position, then 27th position, then 52 position, then 77 position, means after every 25 glucose residues, the bond will be alpha 1,6 glycosidic bond. Okay, but during the fruit ripening, The starch undergoes hydrolysis of alpha 1,4 bonds. During fruit ripening, starch undergoes hydrolysis of alpha 1,4 bonds to produce glucose and maltose, which are sweet in taste. So what will happen once there is ripening of the fruit, the bonding, there is a hydrolysis in the alpha 1,4 bonds. So ultimately they will produce what? Glucose and maltose, which are sweet in color. When we eat food, when we eat starch, when we eat rice, suppose we eat rice, what will happen? Our digestive system will break down into glucose, and that glucose is used by our body as the energy source. Suppose we are having rice, and rice is a good source of carbohydrates, that is starch. So once we eat rice, we feel little bit laziness. Why? Because our digestive enzyme become activated and it will hydrolyze this starch into glucose. And that glucose will be used as the energy by our body. So ultimately, I told you that in both amylose and amylopectin, bonding is alpha 1,4. And after every 25 residues, bonding is changed, that is alpha 1,6. When the fruit ripens, there is a hydrolysis of alpha 1,4 bond. What they produce? Glucose and maltose, which are sweet in color. When we consume starch, our digestive system breaks and it converts into glucose, which is used by our body as an energy source. Then we discuss about next polysaccharide, glycogen. See, basically amylose, amylopectin, starch mainly are found in plants. But glycogen is a special kind of storage polysaccharide which is found in animals. Okay, starch, amylose, amylopectin, they are mainly found in plants, and glycogen mainly found in animals. Glycogen is synthesized by our liver and by the muscles. So it is present in the liver and muscles. It is also the reserve food of fungi. Okay, glycogen is also the reserve food of fungi. So its structural is identical to amylopectin. Okay, so the structure is identical to amylopectin, except that alpha 1,6 branching occurs every 20 glucose residues. Glycogen and amylopectin are same. So, but in amylopectin, what was happening? Alpha 1,6 bond was repeating in every 25 residues. Here, alpha 1,6 bond is repeating every 12 residues, just half. Otherwise, structure is almost same. So again, when energy is needed, glycogen is hydrolyzed into the liver to the glucose. Okay, when glucose is needed, again, glycogen is hydrolyzed into the liver to the glucose. What I told, when glucose is needed, glycogen is hydrolyzed in the liver to synthesize glucose. So, next we discuss about structural polysaccharides. So that was about storage polysaccharides. In that we include amylose, amylopectin and glycogen. Amylose, amylopectin found in plants and glycogen found in animals, mainly stored in liver and muscles. Bonding alpha 1,4 both, alpha 1,6 both. Alpha 1,6 repeat every 25 residues in amylopectin, and in glycogen it repeats every 12 residues. Then we discuss about structural polysaccharides. Now, structural polysaccharides, there is a difference in the bonding. In the storage, we are having the bonding of alpha 1,4. Here, we are having the bonding of beta 1,4. Now, cellulose is the most abundant organic matter in the world. Okay, the cellulose is the most abundant organic matter in the world. See, human body cannot digest cellulose because we don't have the enzymes to digest it. Mainly, it is digested by the herbivorous animals, ruminant animals, because they contain the enzyme cellulase, which is used to digest this cellulose. So, cellulose contains glucose, which are bonded by beta 1,4. Most abundant organic matter in the world. The chain of glucose is straight. Okay, the chain of glucose unit is straight. So what will happen? they will allow chain, straight chain is coming with each other. So the structure is totally rigid structure. Okay, because side by side continuous chain of glucose are there. So their structure is totally rigid structure. So very compact structure is there of cellulose. So what I told, cellulose is again is kind of structural polysaccharide. It is having glucose unit which is bounded by beta 1,4. It is the most abundant organic matter. The chain is straight, so they have typical rigid and compact structure. Okay, that comes up about cellulose. So cellulose is an insoluble fiber in our diet, as I told you, because we don't have cellulose enzymes, so we cannot hydrolyze the cellulose enzymes. We cannot hydrolyze the beta 1,4 bond. So what will happen? We cannot eat grass. We cannot eat green vegetables. We cannot eat fodder. All of this contains cellulose. And on human body, because we do not contain cellulose, so we cannot hydrolyze beta 1,4 glycosidic bond. Okay, so that's why we cannot digest beta 1,4 glycosidic bond. Okay, so whole grains are very good example of cellulose. Cellulose is important in our diet because it helps in the digestive movement in the small and the large intestine. No doubt we cannot digest cellulose, but it helps the activation of various enzymes which will assist in the digestion, where in the small and the large intestine. And I told you some animals like herbivorous animals and some insects, mainly arthropoda, they can digest cellulose because they contain bacteria that produce cellulase. Because some animals and insects can digest cellulose because they contain bacteria that produce cellulase. So human body do not have this enzyme, so we cannot hydrolyze the cellulase beta 1,4 glycosidic bond. So we cannot digest cellulase. That's why we cannot eat raw vegetables. We cannot eat raw grass. We cannot eat raw leaves. Why? Because we don't have cellulase. If you will eat, what will happen? Whole our digestive system will damage. So in our body, what is the role of cellulose? Just to assist in the digestion only in the small and the large intestine. But some animals like herbivorous animals and insects, they have special capacity to digest the cellulose. It's also in the bacteria also. So some bacteria, animals and insects, they can digest cellulose easily in their body. So that was about cellulose. Then we come to another next structural polysaccharide, name is chitin. We all know that chitin is one of the most important protein found in fungi, in the cell wall of fungi, in the exoskeleton of insects and crustacean. So chitin is the main part of cell wall of insect as well as fungi. Okay, it's tightly bound structure. Okay, it is made up of N-acetyl glucosamine. Okay, the functional unit of chitin is N-acetyl glucosamine, and the bonding is same. Beta 1,4 that was in cellulase. The bonding in cellulase and chitin is same. This is beta 1,4, but chitin is made up of repeating units of NAG, N-acetyl glucosamine. So chitin is very structurally very strong polysaccharide. That's why the surface of chitin is very hard. When it touches the shell of certain insects, it is very hard. Why? Due to the presence of this chitin protein. However, chitin is also used as surgical thread that biodegrades as a wound heals. Suppose sometimes we have an infection, so muscle break, bone break. What doctor will do? Doctor will tie. They will stitch that wounded space with the help of this chitin. So chitin is used as the surgical thread which biodegrades the wound heals. It also helps in the protection of insects from the water. Okay, when insects goes into the water, they will die. Some insects can easily survive in the water due to the presence of this chitin. Like we discussed about pila, prawn, they all found in the ocean, in the water. So because of this chitin protein, it provides as the protection from water in the insects. Chitin is also used as a waterproof paper. It is used in cosmetics and lotions to retain moisture. So it is a good application in the industry that it is used as a waterproof paper. It can absorb the moisture. So in the current scenario, it is used in the cosmetics and lotions to retain moisture. So this chitin has several good advantages. So what I told, chitin is having same beta 1,4 bond. They are found in the cell wall of fungi and insects. They are very strong molecule, rigid molecule. They are made up of N-acetyl glucosamine. They protect the insects from the water and they are used in cosmetics and lotions as a waterproof agent. So that was about chitin. Then, so this completes our carbohydrates topic. Next, biomolecules, we reach about lipids. Lipids are also called as fats. Lipids are also called as fats. So lipids are basically naturally occurring hydrophobic molecules. Hydrophobic means which are not dissolved in water. So they are found as fats, oils, esters. We know that oil is not dissolved in water, fats are not dissolved in water, so they are naturally occurring hydrophobic molecules. They are heterogeneous group of compounds. Why heterogeneous? Because they are made up of not particular one unit. They are made up of several units. That is fats, oils, waxes, phospholipids. They are fats, oil, waxes, phospholipids. And what are lipids? They are greasy or oily organic material which are not soluble in water. So they are soluble only in non-polar solvents like chloroform, ether, benzene. So what is the property of lipids? They are heterogeneous in group. They are hydrophobic. They are not easily dissolved in water. So they will dissolve in only non-polar solvent. And why heterogeneous? Because they include fats, oils, waxes and phospholipids. So what is the two important property? Relatively insoluble in water. So they are called as hydrophobic. They are soluble in non-polar solvent such as ether and chloroform. They are soluble in non-polar solvent such as ether and chloroform. Okay. Then we discuss about functions of lipid. Lipids contains the maximum energy among all the macromolecules. Among carbohydrate, protein, fats and vitamins, lipids are having maximum energy per calorie. Okay. So they are storage form of energy. Second point, they are important part of our dietary compounds. They are very important from the point of nutritional diet because their energy is very high and they have fat soluble vitamins. What are fat soluble vitamins? Vitamin C and vitamin D. They have fat soluble vitamins and the essential fatty acids which are required in the natural food. So lipids, main advantage is that they are having the main energy carrier molecules which are having fat soluble vitamins and very essential fatty acids. Besides that, they are structural components of various biomembranes like phospholipids are part of plasma membrane. They are structural components of cell wall of fungi. They are structural components of cell wall of insect. And one very important thing, they serve as thermal insulators in the subcutaneous tissue and around certain organs. We know what polar bear. Polar bear is found in where? Antarctica, where temperature is very low. So how it survive? The skin of polar bear act as thermal insulator. The skin of polar bear act as thermal insulator because of certain fat molecules. So what will happen? It is easily able to exchange the heat from the surroundings. Otherwise, what will happen? Otherwise, polar bear will die in very less temperature. So the skin in the polar bear act as thermal insulators. Mainly in the animals which are living on the Arctic zone Antarctic zone. So they contain fatty acids molecules in their skin, which proves as a thermal insulator. This is another advantage of or function of lipid molecules. Now see, based on type lipids are basically three types: simple lipids, compound lipids, and derived lipids. Simple lipids, compound lipids, and derived lipids. Simple lipids are generally just esters of fatty acids. Okay, simple lipids are just the esters of fatty acids. Esters are what? When we will add alcohol and acid, they will form ester. It is having the fruity appearance. When we will add alcohol and acid, they will form ester. So simple lipids are the ester of fatty acids. Most common example are fats and waxes. Waxes we have seen in the candle. Candle is what? Candle is the wax form. So fats basically are the esters of fatty acids and glycerol. Glycerol is a kind of alcohol. So fats and waxes and wax, they are the esters of long chain fatty acids and long chain alcohols. Means the enlarged version of fats is the wax. So both fats and wax are categorized under the simple lipids, and they are made up of chains of esters of fatty acids and long chain alcohol or glycerol. Then we contain about compound lipids. Though compound lipids contain fatty acids also, alcohol also, and some other functional groups also. Okay, the esters of fatty acids having alcohol and some other group of functional groups also. So they are called as compound lipids. So they are called as compound lipids. Next group called as derived lipids. Next group called as derived lipids. The derived lipids, they are composed of hydrocarbon rings and long chain hydrocarbon side chain. The derived lipids, they are made up of long chain of hydrocarbon rings and a long chain of hydrocarbon chain. So based on the function groups, we can divide lipids into simple lipids having esters of fatty acids and alcohol, two types, fats and waxes; compound lipids having fatty acids, esters, alcohol, and other functional groups. Then we discuss about derived lipids. They are composed of hydrocarbon rings and a long chain hydrocarbon side chain. They are called as what? They are called as derived lipids. So basically, there are three types of lipids: simple, compound, and derived. Okay. Then first of all, we discuss about simple lipids. As I told you, simple lipids are esters of fatty acids and alcohols. The fats and oils which are present, they contain triglycerides and triacylglycerols. These are the esters of fatty acids with trihydroxy alcohol and glycerol. So in a group of ester, three alcoholic chains are there. When we are having the esters of fatty acids with tri molecules of alcohol, that is tri molecules of glycerol, we call as simple fats and oils. We know that vanaspati ghee is a fat. So if we keep vanaspati ghee room temperature, it is hard, but if we melt it, it will turn into liquid. So the fat is solid at room temperature, and it is a kind of oil in the liquid. Solid lipids are fats and liquid lipids are oils. So solid lipids are fats and liquid lipids are oils. So fats and oils are two types of form of lipids. They contain triglycerides, triacylglycerols attached to the fatty acids. Then next come to the structure. See, these three alcoholic rings are there. It is the structure of glycerols. They are attached to triglyceride. This is the triglyceride. These are the three molecules of glycerol. They are attached to with the help of fatty acid chain. They are attached to the triglycerides. So this fat is neutral fat. They come under the waxes. Waxes are the esters of fatty acids with high molecular weight monohydroxy alcohols. It is one monohydroxy alcohol, second, third. What are waxes? Waxes are the higher version of fats. So they are defined as the esters of fatty acids with higher molecular weight monohydroxy group of alcohols. Example, we know that beeswax or our candle wax. Candle is what? It is example of wax only. And beeswax, honeybees produce wax, which is example of esters of fatty acids and alcohol. So these are called as waxes. Then we come to compound lipids. I told you compound lipids are found with the esters of fatty acids and alcohols, and besides that, they contain additional functional groups also. When three things are there, fatty acids plus alcohol is simple acid. Fatty acid plus alcohol plus another functional group, it is compound lipid. So example of compound lipid is phospholipids. Phospholipids or phosphatids, they are compound containing fatty acids and glycerol. Besides that, they contain phosphoric acid, nitrogenous bases, and other substituents. That's why the name comes phospholipids, lipids plus phosphoric acid. So what are phospholipids? They are kind of compound lipids. They contain what? They contain fatty acids, glycerol. In addition to that, they contain phosphoric acid, nitrogenous bases, and other substituents. They usually possess one hydrophilic head. One hydrophilic head means which is easily dissolved in water, and two non-hydrophobic tails. Means head is hydrophilic, single head, and tails are two. That is hydrophobic. So they are called as amphiphatic in nature. They are called in amphiphatic in nature. Sorry, the spelling of nature is a little bit wrong. So they are called as amphiphatic in nature. Why amphiphatic? Because they contains both hydrophilic head and hydrophobic polar tails. So they contain both hydrophobic polar tails. Okay. So amphiphatic means which are possessing both hydrophilic and hydrophobic in nature. So they are having hydrophilic head and hydrophobic tail. See, this is the structure of phospholipid. This is the hydrophilic, blue rung head is there. There are two tails which are hydrophobic, and this phospholipid is found where? This is the typical structure of phospholipid. It is having head and tail. They are found in the where? Lumen of the cell. Lumen is present on the extracellular surface of the. This is the extracellular surface, and this is the inside surface. Means they are found in the lumen of the cell. Mainly they are found in plasma membrane. Mainly they are found in the lumen of plasma membrane. So this is the typical structure of phospholipid. They are having hydrophilic head, that is blue color, and two chains are there, that is hydrophobic. That's why it is called as amphiphatic. Then we discuss about derived lipids. As the word suggests, derived, it means they are taken from somebody else. As the name suggests, derived lipids are substances which are derived from simple and compound lipids by hydrolysis. When we perform the hydrolysis of compound and simple lipids, they will form derived lipids. Example is fatty acids, alcohol, monoglycerides, diglycerides, steroids, terpenes, terpenoids, carotenoids. The most common derived lipids are steroids, terpenes, and carotenoids. We know that carotenoids are present in the pigment of the plant. Terpenes are a group of natural products which are found in the abiotic stress. The most common derived lipids are steroids. The most common derived lipids are steroids. They contain terpenes and carotenoids. So what are derived lipids? Which are derived from simple and compound lipids by hydrolysis. They include fatty acids, alcohol, monoglycerides, and diglycerides, steroids, terpene, carotenoids. The most common example are steroids, terpenes, and carotenoids. And I told you carotenoids are main part of plant pigments. Then we discuss about fatty acids. We are talking about fatty acids, triglycerides. So we should know first of all what are fatty acids. Fatty acids are long chain of aliphatic carboxylic acid only. Like large number of CH2 COOH. They are just multiple chains of aliphatic carboxylic acid. Aliphatic means they don't have ring structure. Aromatic means which are having ring structure. Fatty acids mainly found in esters. As I told you, what are esters? They are complex of alcohol and acid. Obviously, you will found in ester. Fatty acids that occur in naturally fats are usually straight chain derivatives. So fatty acids that are occurring naturally, they are having even number of carbon chains like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Sometimes depend upon the bonding, fatty acids can be defined as saturated or unsaturated. If they do not contain any single double bond, if between the carbon chains, aliphatic carboxylic chain, there is no any kind of bonding, they are called as saturated fatty acids. But if suppose there is a supple double bond or triple bond in between the long chain aliphatic formula, they are called as unsaturated fatty acids. So base and bonding we classify as saturated and unsaturated. Okay. So as I told you, fatty acids can be classified in two ways. Those which do not contain, they are called as saturated, do not contain double bond, and while those fatty acids which contain double bond or triple bond, they are called as unsaturated fatty acids. It means between the long chain of aliphatic carboxylic acid, between the carbon chain, they will having some bonding. Bonding is there, it is unsaturated. No bonding, it is saturated. So based on their structural formula, based on the bonding, we can easily identify whether the fatty acid is saturated or unsaturated. Okay. See, then again based on the requirement, fatty acids are classified in two types: essential fatty acids and non-essential fatty acids. Essential fatty acids are those which cannot be synthesized in our body, which are not synthesized in human. They must be obtained from certain diet. Our body cannot synthesize the essential fatty acids, but they are required in the body. So we'll get these fatty acids from diet. For example, linoleic acid and linolenic acid are very good examples of fatty acids. Linoleic acid and linolenic acids are very good examples of essential fatty acids. And non-essential fatty acids, they are those which are not necessary to be taken through diet, and our body itself can synthesize these fatty acids. They are called as non-essential fatty acids. So which are non-essential, which are not synthesized or which are not necessary to be taken through the diet, and our human body can synthesize these fatty acids, so they are called as essential fatty acids. Okay. Then we discuss about unsaturated fatty acids. I told you what are unsaturated fatty acids, which are having double bond or triple bond. So first we discuss about monounsaturated fatty acids. Mono means one. Example is monoionic acid, monoethanoic acid. They contain only one double bond. Second type, polyunsaturated fatty acids. Example, polyethanoid and polyenic. It means they contain two or more than two double bonds. So monosaturated contains monoethanoic or monoionic acids. They contain one double bond. And polyunsaturated acids, they contain polyethanoic, polyenolic, or they contain two or more double bonds. That is polyunsaturated double bonds. Based on double bonds, mono and polyunsaturated fatty acids. Now see this example. This is a simple aliphatic carbon chain. No bonding is there. It is what? Saturated fatty acids. Then say this, again carbon chain is there, but there is a presence of one bond is there. One bond is there, so it is example of mono unsaturated fatty acids. And in this chain, we are having how many bonds? Two bonds. So they are example of polyunsaturated fatty acids. Okay, so they are example of polyunsaturated fatty acids. Right? Then we discuss about fatty acids based on the length of hydrophobic chain. Short chain 2 to 6 of carbon atoms, medium chain 8 to 14 carbon atoms, long chain 16 to 18 carbon atoms, and very long chain with 20 or more than 20 carbon atoms. All are hydrophobic in nature. So based on that, we can classify fatty acids based on length of hydrophobic chain. That is 2 to 6, 8 to 14, 16 to 18, or very long, 20 or more than 20. Okay. Then what is the biological importance of fatty acids? We should know. Fatty acids are important building blocks of dietary fats. Whatever fats we are obtaining from the nutritional diet, in that they are the main components of fatty acids. The human body stores the fats in the form of triglycerides. The reserved food material is in the form of muscles, liver, and the glycogen also, and in the form of triglycerides also. So the storage of fats in our body is in the form of triglycerides. Fatty acids are also important. They are required in the formation of membrane lipids like phospholipids, which are important part of plasma membrane of the animal cell, like phospholipids and glycolipids. They are also required for the esterification of cholesterol to form cholesterol esters. They are required for the esterification of cholesterol. And finally, they act as the fuel molecules because they are those molecules which are having maximum energy. So, they are fuel molecules that are oxidized to produce energy. Okay, they are fuel molecules that are oxidized to produce energy. So these are the main biological importance of fats. And finally, there is one process in biochemical metabolism that is called as beta oxidation. So what is beta oxidation? Here, it is the catabolic process in which the long chain of fatty acids are broken down. This beta oxidation takes place in two organelles, mitochondria and peroxisomes. So in the mitochondria, there is a breakage of fatty acids. They will form what? Acetyl coenzyme A. They will form acetyl coenzyme A. After that, which enters into the citric acid cycle, they will take with the help of NADH and FADH2, which act as coenzyme, and finally they will help in the electron transport chain. What is beta oxidation? Breaking of fatty acids into smaller units, like in the form of acetyl coenzyme A. This happens in the mitochondria. Then acetyl coenzyme A will enter into the citric acid cycle. It will take the help of NADH and FADH2, which are coenzymes, and after that they will transfer into the electron transport chain. That was overall topic about some carbohydrates and lipids. So thank you very much. So I hope this lecture will make you the better understanding of both carbohydrates and lipids. Thank you.